Okay, so welcome everybody to the Early Days podcast. I am Sophie, and today I have with me Anthony LePore. Hi,
What's
Anthony.
going on? Hi.
What's up? Busy day today?
Yeah, happy to be here. Definitely a bit of a busy day, but I'm not normally dressed like this. I'm coming from work, so this is
Do you mind if
But,
I
yeah.
ask, what do you do for work?
Well, I work not ideally, but to keep the lights on. I work in insurance. So,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
not
Yeah.
not flashy, but
I mean, it makes sense why you have to dress up, because you gotta look the part.
yeah. I mean, usually they're pretty lenient, but I don't know. I don't half-ass stuff. I just kind of just go for it.
All right. Okay. Well, I would love to start talking about voice acting, of course, with you. So,
So,
as I've told Anthony before we started recording, this podcast is meant as a way for people who are interested in voice acting to know more about it. So you really don't need anything to listen to this. It's basically, you just have an interest and maybe you don't know how to start. You don't know maybe how to better your skills or what to use or anything like that. You don't need to have that knowledge right off the bat. We're just going to talk about our experiences and what we would recommend. So, how did you actually start with voice acting? Because I remember we chatted about it briefly before, but I'd just love to hear it again.
so it's been about a decade. I got into it actually through my brother. I have two older brothers, and I'm the youngest of three. So the middle one really is the one who got me into it. He was always big into like RPGs and anime. So he actually found a casting call club, which is kind of where I do all my auditions, really. And it was 10 years ago, so I was like 8 at the time, and you always kind of want to be like your older sibling. So I had always had interest in acting. I was a creative kid. Like I would always like play soldiers by myself because my brothers were out of the house by the time I was, of walking age. So I'd always like play pretend by myself. So acting always kind of intrigued me, but voice acting was kind of something new because I was kind of a chunky kid. I wasn't shy, but like I definitely wasn't like I wasn't mature enough and have the social awareness to realize like acting is really what I wanted to do. It was like an interest, but it wasn't like, oh, this is going to be my thing. He introduced that to me, and the voice acting really took away a lot of the insecurities because it's just your voice. And listen, voice acting on a amateur website as an 8-year-old is rough. I don't even think that's allowed. I think you have to be a lot older, but I made an account anyway, and I was auditioning, and definitely that's how I got started, and it definitely was not clearly. I've no idea what I was doing. Not great. I didn't really get anything for like 4 years. So
Did you ever ask your brother for help in that process, or did you just kind of like try?
Weirdly enough, no. I just kind of did it. Like
okay.
I've always had this like weird thing where I don't even know what you would call it, but like if I see something and I want to do it, I will figure out how to do it, or I'll ask someone or like look up something to teach me, and then I will just kind of go with it. So like voice acting, I don't even know. I think my first auditions were using, because I was like a young 8-year-old in like the Sky Does Minecraft like prime era. So
yeah.
I was like, I wanted to be a YouTuber, so I would like make like YouTube videos, but my first auditions were recorded using Bandicam, but having a picture of the character I was auditioning for layered over what would be the camera. So that's kind of like, I never even knew about like audio recording until 2020.
Bandicam,
So, like,
is that a webcam or is that a program?
It's
or?
like Yeah, it was this like free like like video recording software. It's like kind of like OBS, but it was for like you could get it for free and it would have like a watermark at the top and like
Okay.
I'm like an 8-year-old, so I don't got no money, you know.
Well,
So
we're not bothered by that at that age, right?
no, we're just like, okay, I mean, I'm getting like videos, like I'm just like Sky does Minecraft, which unfortunate circumstances, it's not who you want to be now, but at the time it seemed okay.
Yeah,
So,
like an inspiration
yeah.
to look up to.
Yeah, but so that's
Okay.
kind of how I started.
Alright.
Until my voice dropped, I got nothing.
Yeah?
So, well, actually, that's not true. I just remembered one. I auditioned, so my brother was really big into Sonic. So the first auditions I went for, I didn't even really like Sonic, but like I was just doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
So I got my first role was playing classic Sonic in like this Gmod like roleplay thing, and I remember there was like a line in the script. I had like 4 lines, and it was a Christmas special, and one of the lines was like, "God damn it, Tails." But I was like 9 or like 10, and I go to my mom and I'm like, "Mom, like, what do I do? Because I don't want to like say that." She's like, "Just change it to like gosh dang," and I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So I go back and I ask the director, I'm like, "Is this okay?" And she was probably like 16. She's like, "Yeah, that's fine."
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay.
the video never got made, but
Oh, okay. So you recorded your lines, but you never heard anything back. Yeah, that's also something that happens, unfortunately.
a lot.
I realized I didn't start the timer, so I'm gonna do that real quick right now.
It's all good.
First for everything. All right, there we go. Okay, yeah. So I already heard a lot of things. So you had an inspiration, mostly from your one of your older brothers, who was the main interest in acting, and then you rolled into voice acting, or was his interest actually voice acting as well?
So his interest was mainly voice acting.
Mhm.
He did some theater when he was in middle school, but voice acting was his main interest. Like I said, I didn't have the wherewithal to know what I was doing, but like playing pretend soldier was like my interest was actually acting at first. Voice acting was just kind of like an outlet I was able to really use. So yeah.
And also, you talked about how it feels more comfortable to do voice acting because it's just your voice. Could you talk a little bit more about that? Just maybe your first recording sessions, how that felt, or stuff like that.
For sure. I mean, like I said, as you kind of get older, the insecurities come in. They're not there when you're young, so you don't care what anyone thinks. But like, I think that's an advantage voice acting has, especially in at least for me, and I know for so many others, like acting on camera or on stage is really difficult because it's obviously catered towards like extremely good-looking people. And and if you don't fit that kind of bill, you're usually typecast. So like what I would run into is I did theater in high school and middle school, and I'd always get the villain, or like the villain who is a New Yorker.
Oh, okay.
So I would just get those roles all the time. But with voice acting, it gives you this avenue to go down where you can play with your voice. You can't. It's hard to play with your physical attributes, and the actors who do are obviously like some of the greats, like Christian Bale, but like not everyone's Christian Bale.
Yeah.
But most people, if you're interested in voice acting, you can, you're probably, if you're interested in voice acting, more likely than not, you have sat in a call with your friends making like dumb bits with like silly voices. So that's literally it. It's just, I feel like anyone with a mild interest in acting should be able to do it with ease.
I think so too. I think also I've recently come more, told more people in my circle that I do voice acting. And I think a very common misunderstanding with people who don't quite know what voice acting is, they think, oh, so you do voices. So it's like, oh, you do impressions? Oh, can you do an impression of me? And I'm like, it doesn't work
do
like
a Kratos
that.
impression, Sophie, right now.
No, please don't ask me
no.
that. No, it's, I love it so much because I also did some theater classes when I was really little and some singing classes. And I kind of had the same thing happen to me. I didn't really get cast for any big roles or anything. I was just kind of there and also in the background, and I enjoyed it, but at some point I was too old, I think, for the musical group, so I had to stop. But for voice acting, I have this very distinct memory of me sitting behind my PC watching AFMO videos, because a lot of people start off like that. Little high schooler Sophie watching the voice actor for Gareth, and I was like, wow, that's so cool to be in a series like that, and I wish I could do that. And then I started Googling, and that's where it really started for me.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, like, oh, so you do voices? I think 3 people in my real kind of normal life kind of know that I do, because for me it is a hobby. I mean, I've gotten paid for doing it, but it is just a hobby at the moment.
Yeah.
But like that, if I was told that, I guess technically yes, but it's like we just did a film together, Awoken. Like I had with Misha, the director and writer, like for the first time really ever, I had a genuine process of finding the character, and I took it upon myself to treat this like if I was hired on a professional set, how would I go about this?
Yeah.
And taking it with that kind of that process, I think that the final product shows very well. I mean, just because of that due diligence. And when I hear like the voices thing, like yes, but no, because you are still, at the end of the day, you're acting. Like, is on stage or on screen acting just like reading words off a page? You know what I'm saying? I mean, especially with the work you did on the film as well. I mean, I could tell you went to the depths of your soul for some of those scenes. So it's a lot more than that. And I think that brings a lot to just the hobby and interest in general. It's incredible. Yeah,
definitely. I really like the fact that you really get to kind of try out this different life for a really short time, especially with the project we did. But it's also, like you said, the process of like actually getting to know this character and having a say in the development, or seeing telling the director how you see this character and how you see the development going. That's so amazing. And
for sure.
Obviously, you don't start with this when you do voice acting, but live recordings is a really great thing to work up to. I remember with one of my first bigger Minecraft Machinima voiceovers, I did for Rebecca Lethane. It was the very first live recording I did ever, and I was super nervous. And while recording, my voice was shaking and everything, and in the final takes I can still hear it. But it was such a good experience and a wonderful experience, really positive, and just talking about the content that you're making together and just loving it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for sure when you start out your first, I think genuinely when you first start out, you need to audition for things that pique your interest, but also if you're serious about it, you need to audition for everything. Experience is gold. Obviously, like, everyone wants the lead role and the project that goes and blows up on YouTube or whatever, but realistically, like, your first, honestly, year and a half, unless you have acting experience, which if that's the case, then you'll pick up things quicker. But that, honestly, for the first like couple of months, it is just going to be doing voices, and then the more you get into projects, like, the unfortunate reality in this kind of line of, I would say, of work, but this just area of creativity, half of the, like, I would say 70% of the projects you get into don't get made.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen, which is okay.
Yeah.
The experience is what you should take away with it. And then taking every project seriously, even if it's like a gotcha life, like a stop motion thing, because you want to build experience, but also test your voice out. You want to stretch out your range as far as see how far it can go, and then from there collecting, like, even if the projects don't get made, collect the files,
Mm-hmm.
and then try to make a reel once you got a good enough portfolio. But
Yeah.
in the beginning, it really is just, okay, well, this looks cool. What is this guy about? Oh, the director only put like 3 lines of description. Well, that's when the fun part comes in. Then you
Yeah.
make it up yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Like you get to kind of fill in some parts that were left out. I think you already said a lot of like interesting things about that, because like with voice acting especially, there's so many thoughts coming to me that I'm kind of losing them as I'm thinking about them. Okay.
It's okay.
So definitely, when you start out, there's a ton of different ways to think about things and go about things. Personally, I was kind of too scared to go for main roles because I felt like I wasn't experienced enough. So I was going for these smaller roles and kind of testing the waters, testing stuff out, and I don't regret that. I really feel like I stayed within my comfort zone, but at some point, you gotta kind of let go of that insecurity of like, oh, I don't know if I sound good, or maybe I sound weird, or maybe I'm making too much noise, whatever. Just kind of go for it and see what people respond with. Also, yes, some projects don't actually go through or come through, they don't get finished or whatever, but there's also projects that do, and they're so amazing, and you get, even if it's not, like you said, a paid project and you just do it as a hobby and you're trying stuff out, trying out your voice, that's a really great experience to take into the next project.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier, like, the oh, I'm blanking. You said something about what'd you say before with the
Experience.
Yes. Like starting out in the beginning when you are first auditioning, and it is, oh, I'm gonna go for the extra role because I'm scared I'm gonna make a fool of myself. As obviously someone who has been there, but also as someone who's been the director of projects who was casted, like, you should get over that fear as soon as possible. Staying in your comfort zone is not necessarily a bad thing. Like, Sophie did it, I did it. Like, I was terrified. But definitely, like, in retrospect, kind of looking back, I think, like, you're not gonna make as much of a fool of yourself as you think, but also just that act of taking that step across the line of, like, this is, like, where I'm scared, and then just hopping over it, just, all right, I'm gonna take a chance. If I get this, see what happens. That's really important.
Yeah.
Because then that's what, like, with change and chances comes greatness, and if you really want to have fun with this hobby, you can't do it without taking chances.
Yeah, I think it's really nice. Just especially, yeah, when you start, like, you don't really know where to audition. I've heard stuff like, I still audition on Casting Call Club as well. I've heard Voice Acting Club, also just people on Twitter, which I've turned to as well.
Twitter is blown up with voice acting. I didn't see that one coming, but yeah, it's a big one now.
Yeah, because you get a ton of casting calls just passing by. And, also a thing you said was to make your own reel with the takes that you've done for, like, other projects in the past. I think that's very smart. Because also with those Twitter posts that you see, a lot of people ask for a demo reel. And for the very beginners, what is a demo reel? Well, it's kind of, I would say, a video to show off your skills. So you try to show, like, your acting skills, the different types of voices or accents that you can do. But yeah, you don't know where to make one, or, like, how to make one. You don't know what to show. You don't know pretty much anything about it. So how do you go about it? That is a very smart way to do it, to just either for previous auditions that you've done or previous work, if it is an original project, maybe ask the project owner just to be sure if you can use the lines as well. But yeah, definitely put them together and show off what you can do.
Yeah, I definitely think Twitter's a great one. Casting Call Club is pretty good as well, but I think the one that I've started doing is when you do have a project that finishes, if it's a person or a group of people that you know are gonna be consistent and, like, finish the projects, stick close to them. Like, you may not get every role with them, but like develop a friendship and a bond to where, okay, I know this person, and they're hard to come across, but when you find them, stick to them.
Oh
like,
yeah, the
for
goldies.
yeah, for me, there's a channel called Slightly Insulting. They make Minecraft machinimas, and Ray kind of took me under his wing when I was a bit younger, and then I kind of drifted away, and then I came back around the past like year, and ever since then, like we're talking every week about like ideas and you know, roles he wants to cast me in, things like that. Like,
Nice.
find the people that you know are gonna get stuff done, or become that person, and then just stick close to them, and just find creative people who are just as passionate as you are.
Yeah.
Treat it like any other hobby, like reasonably. You want to make sure you surround yourself with like-minded people. Another great one is finding a Discord group or a online group of voice acting friends, and if they find a casting call, send them all to your friends, and try to. Competition's really healthy, I think, and is really quite fun. So definitely finding like-minded people like that is a good way to go about it.
That's a really big one as well. Networking. I think most of the stuff that we do is just constantly networking, talking to people. The way that I see it, if you get to know another actor and that actor sends you either a casting call or says like, hey, I'm now voicing a character in this project, you now know someone you didn't know before. And that's how, if you keep expanding your network, you get to see chances that you otherwise wouldn't for auditions or projects to somehow participate in. And yeah, that's a big part of it as well. Yeah.
Well, also I mean, it's a very small chance. It's a big world with a lot of competition. But if a blessing comes and one of you is picked up by some big league, you're friends with them, like they have connections now that was never accessible before, and that opens a door if they're cool enough, of course.
Yeah.
To help you guys along there. I mean, that's kind of the whole thing, your networking is crucial. Right after me and you got done with Awoken, it was like, hey, if you audition for something, send it to me.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah,
it's really important. I agree.
And also, well, you don't have to be friends with everybody. You don't have to worry too much about, like, always pleasing everybody. Or, like, I don't know, if you do have an interest in, like, eventually branching out to do this as, like, a job or doing this as a freelancer. Another big part to just think about way later is, like, pricing yourself for a fair price. Like, don't underprice yourself, I suppose. I'm not hitting the right word, I think. But it's
definitely know your worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Know your worth. Yeah, exactly.
And also, when it comes to, this will start out as a hobby, and, if you work at it really hard and you get lucky in the right areas, this can evolve into a paying opportunities, or even trying to take it seriously into a potential career. Definitely knowing and valuing yourself in the right sense is very crucial, because the cruel world, people will take advantage of you if they can. So it's a big thing as well.
Yeah. Also, this is kind of in a way different direction, but I'm really curious.
Let's do it.
So, I have this memory for my very first microphone that I used, and I'm really curious, what microphone did you use to start out with your very first things?
This one, the same one I'm using.
Oh!
I have had... Oh man, this is Old Faithful. This thing is a decade old, maybe maybe like 12 or 11 years old. It's a blue Snowball. They don't even make this model anymore, because the base is it's like steel.
Yeah.
Or it's like iron or steel. And I looked up, because I'm like, I've had this thing for a long time. Maybe I should upgrade. So I looked on Amazon. I'm like, okay, well, blue Snowball, and they're all plastic bases now. And I'm like, what? So I don't know, but honest to God, I've been using the same for 10 years. It served me well. Audio editing is a lane we could go down. That's also crucial, but I think, honest to God, Blue Snowball is. I hope the new ones are good, but I have it, so I'm gonna recommend it. That's a good way to. That's a good cheap one to start. But in all honesty, like a Blue Yeti, everyone has a Blue Yeti, and it's for a reason. They're great. So that's if it's a bit on the pricier side. I think it's probably about $100 to $60 to $100. But I mean they're well worth it.
Do you know how much the Blue Snowball was?
I think I got this for like $25-$30, but that was also 10 years ago, so...
Okay. We'll have to look that up. And I'll write it down somewhere. I should actually write down that I'm gonna do that real quick.
It's all good.
Give me 1 second. So, I'm asking because I also had this experience. Basically, I started out with like nothing. The only thing I had was my old gaming headset, which had like terrible mic quality. You know, it was one of those that go up to the mouth. Yeah, it was so bad that I used my phone to like speak into my phone to record my lines for the very first things. Then what I would do was those files I would send over to my PC via email so that I could edit them and like make them sound nice, and then I would send them in for like the auditions. That's how I did my very first things.
Nice. Adapt, improvise, overcome. That's what's up.
And then I was also asking people for like, okay, so do you have advice for like a good microphone to start out with? And I also heard the Blue Snowball. And as it turned out, my brother had been given a microphone from a friend of his who basically had it lying around. He was like, I don't use it anymore. Do you want it? And then he had it, and I was like, wait, that's a Blue Snowball! So I got to basically use that to record until I bought my, like, a new bundle, basically, with, like, a mic screen, and basically upgraded my setup.
Nice.
But yeah, I used that for a really long time, and it really did serve me well. So I also recommend it.
Yeah. I don't know how this thing hasn't busted on me. It's been like, we've had close calls where like I thought the like cord stopped working, but I mean 10, 11 years strong. That's good
stuff.
Not sponsored, by the way. Should be, but not sponsored.
Not sponsored at all, but Blue Snowball is really good.
I'll take it. Yeah.
I remember the time when people were like kind of discussing if the Blue Yeti or the Blue Snowball was better. It was kind of like this discussion of like, no, this one's better. No, this one's better.
As someone who has a Blue Snowball, if this thing ever keels over, I'll buy a Blue Yeti. I mean, they're pretty fantastic.
To try it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So about like your recording program, what do you use?
I use Audacity. I have used Audacity for... It's honestly the only audio editing I've ever used. I think it's easy to use. It's free, and it works really well. I would definitely, starting out, the big thing is audio quality. So even it doesn't matter how good of an actor or voice actress you are, if your mic sounds like dog doo-doo, you ain't gonna get no roles. So you need to I looked up some YouTube tutorials. There's thousands online. Find one. You have to mess with the settings, because every mic, even if you get a Blue Snowball, it'll sound a little different. So your settings will change. I have settled on some that work for me. I'm sure you have, your Audacity looks different than mine. You have to mess with the audio settings, learn about noise reduction. I feel like those two things starting out, you're pretty good for a long time. You can get by just doing those two. Later on you'll learn about other stuff, but like just starting out, find a program. Audacity is definitely what I recommend. And then you have to, before even your first audition, record yourself talking and just fuck with the settings. Like, full stop. You just have to.
A lot of the stuff, like I also learned by just kind of trying stuff out, looking up like stuff on YouTube, trying to figure out how it worked. That's especially when you don't have a lot of people in your network that know anything about voice acting, let alone vocal editing of any kind.
Yeah.
So I would also recommend Audacity, since it's free, and it's also something that didn't take me too long to figure out at all, really. I've also heard people use Reaper, which is also free, but I find it a little bit more... I still need to get used to it as well. Like, I still need to learn it as well. But yeah, definitely, I agree with the fact that you said, like worse quality, it doesn't mean that you have to buy a microphone of like a minimum of $100 or whatever. Just whatever you have laying around to try it out, especially if you're not sure if you want to continue, but you just want to test the waters, try it out, and try to see how you can maybe make it sound better with editing afterwards. Yeah, and then your skills will come later as you progress.
Something they don't tell you about, which I only learned... Well, that's not... So, I learned about 3 to 4 years ago. You always kind of know about it, but at least for me, I may be dumb, it took me a long time to actually implement it, and that is your recording atmosphere, your physical room. If you are sitting in a office with nothing in it, it's going to echo like crazy. And if you are... I mean, I'm sitting in a corner with 2 monitors and a wall and decorations, and sometimes I still get echoes bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
So recording atmosphere is completely essential. I have one trick. This is all I do. I grab the 3 heaviest blankets I have in my house. I throw a sheet underneath, so it's 4 layers. Throw it over myself, over a monitor, and my microphone. You got a key. That's the pinky thumb rule. You want to stay about this far away from the microphone, and then I record.
Yeah.
You don't have to get a whole closet where you have soundproof foam on all the walls. People do that. You don't have to. I recorded my first setup. I recorded in my closet with a blanket over my head.
Yeah. The way I started as well, because I have my booth right there, but the way I started was I had a mic screen that I bought within a bundle, which is basically like it's on a stand and there's just this screen on top with some acoustic padding. And then I would open my closet door to kind of like block myself in that way. Or I think even before that, I also used a blanket. I was just sitting at my PC and I would throw it over the screen and then kind of just sit like this.
Yep.
Until the point where I realized, okay, I would like to stand up because I can just kind of put more force into my acting that way. And that's when I got the mic screen.
Yeah, the booth is definitely better for posture because I'm like a little gremlin. So breathing can be difficult, especially if you're screaming. But you don't need to invest in Home Depot or Lowe's.
No.
Building a booth. You can just heavy blankets. Heavy blankets.
I think as long as it works, it works. Like you shouldn't have to think like, oh, I have to pay a ton of money in order to make my stuff sound good. No, like whatever you have laying around, even like maybe you could do something with pillows, or I've heard people use mattresses, put them against the wall, or whatever you have, you know, as long as it works and it makes it sound good, then you're there.
Yeah, well, the thing they won't tell you is you'll watch all these YouTube videos and they'll tell you to buy the most expensive microphone and the most expensive headset and the most expensive audio recording software, but in all honesty, like, you can buy a $200 microphone. Doesn't matter if you're sitting in an empty, echoey room without editing. It's gonna sound like shit.
Yeah.
Like, your voice may sound like 0.5% more crisp, and you get that, you know, the tongue inflations that pick up because it's so sensitive.
Yeah.
But if you're not in good recording conditions and you don't edit, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I also noticed, I was talking to somebody about basically the voice acting journey kind of this week that I've had so far. And I also realized, you know, for the longest time, I felt like the Blue Snowball was great quality, you know, and it's kind of when you start to get used to the sound. Because I'm in no way an audio engineer at all. I just kind of get used to the sound, and I know what sounds good and what sounds maybe less good. And then at some point you upgrade when you've saved up and you're like, oh, well, I can now buy this new microphone, yay. And then, you know, you try and make that sound as good as it can, and then you realize, oh, well, maybe I could do this and make it even better. So it's kind of, you're never done with learning and, I suppose, trying to make your setup better. So, and also your skills, definitely. Like, you never stop learning.
No. Yeah, this kind of blanket strat has definitely been a lot more recent, because I'm no longer 12, so I can't fit, you know, in my closet that used to have doors. I took them off, so it would work now. But yeah, so whatever works, and there's no need to invest all this money and stuff. If you're passionate about it and you work hard and you do the right things, you'll sound good. And the better you sound and the more you work at your acting, you know, I've had, unfortunately, as someone who, like I said earlier, I've casted, like, there's been talent with, man, I would love to work with you, but your microphone just isn't great. And the disparity in quality, especially in projects between actors, is like, that's really jarring. Yeah. And you won't get picked over that. You know, and if you do, you'll stick out, not in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, so. It's like, I saw a video a couple of days ago on Instagram also, somebody basically giving the advice, like, the microphones in quality have to match in a project, because otherwise it literally sounds like somebody could be in, like, the previous decade or something.
Yeah. Or previous decade, or, I mean, you can tell when they're not in the same room. Like, hearing, like, dubbing in live action movies, like, you're like, all right, well, he didn't say that. Because the audio difference is like that, and it's just like, well, yeah, just took me out of it. Thanks, man. Yeah.
All right. I'm quickly keeping an eye on the time, and we have about 4 minutes left until we start to round off, so we're still doing good. But I'm really curious if there is anything that you could maybe think of that in your process you might have done differently from the start, or is there anything that you have learned now which you would like to tell to people just starting out?
I think the biggest thing for me, I kind of touched on it earlier, is in the beginning, it took a long time for me to get out of, oh, this is just fun voices. Now that comes with the quality of project being assigned to you, and that you get. So I guess there is a caveat there, but my process has changed in how I approach the work itself and treating it like real work. Because in the off chance that, you know, you would want to pursue this as a career, you got to have a portfolio that would speak to your level of effort you would put in if it's a professional project. You don't want to voice in an animation project where you woke up at 3 a.m, like, oh shit, my lines are doing 5 minutes, and then throw something together that sounds like shit, and then be like, yeah, so now I want to be professional. Like, you know, you have to take the process at least somewhat seriously, just because, at least for me, I want to put out my best. So the process that has definitely changed for me is simply I've had the audio down for a while, it's in the acting. Is something that I've personally taken great joy in taking more seriously. It's the quality is night and day. Not that it was necessarily bad before, but the enjoyment, like, there was a period in time where it just kind of felt monotonous. I had hit this big project called Angel's Touch, and it kind of blew up, and that project I loved, but that gave me, then instead of me auditioning, I had a lot of people reaching out to me to be in roles. And that was a really exciting thing. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, this is like what I've wanted. Let's fucking do everything. Yeah. And very quickly I realized, oh my god, like, I have 5 projects I have to do with 5 different characters, and they're all like semi-main characters. And it wasn't fun, because I said yes to everything because I was very excited, and I didn't take the acting process seriously enough to where I literally just kind of phoned it in. I don't know if any of those projects really came out, but like, taking your time, at least for me, I can only speak for me, taking my time with, if I am going to audition for something, it is important to me. It is something that I think is really fun, or it's a project that I know that the creator would do a very good job with. Anything Misha brings to me, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, automatic yes.
Mm.
Anything Ray brings to me, like, yep, whatever you want. Taking it more seriously, even though it is still a hobby, and realizing that it is more fun for me when I put more effort into it. When I phone it in, I find this hobby kind of boring and monotonous. I find great joy in the sitting down with a good script and sinking into the character, even though it is just my voice, and finding all these small ways I can put, different tinge in that word, or a different low note here, and things like that.
I definitely also think that your attitude matters so much as well. I think people would rather have somebody that maybe does not have the proper skills yet, but is really nice to work with, because then you're open to learning and you're open to direction and stuff like that. At least I would definitely appreciate that if I bring a new voice actor onto the project, that they're just open to feedback. Definitely.
And you taught me this, so
I don't
think I've told you this, but I'm breaking here. Don't be afraid to stick up for your character. If you don't think it's right, and you don't think your character would do this, and this applies to all acting, you say it. I don't think he would say this.
Yeah.
Or I think he would say it like this. And even in me and you with Awoken, like, there were scenes that were changed because we felt that this doesn't really work, or there were certain lines of dialogue that we had changed, and you taught me that because there was like a line that I was trying and I wasn't really getting it because it just felt weird, and you just like, I don't think Murphy would say that. And in my head I'm like, holy fuck, she's right, why didn't I just say that? So if you get a role, they have clearly picked you because they think you are a good fit. Take that responsibility, and the director and you are working together. Acknowledge that. They are not they shouldn't be a tyrant. But you also shouldn't be so captive of like the character that it's immovable to you. Like, there's a nice 50-50. And most of the time you won't encounter things like that where you'll just send in lines like, okay, cool. Yeah. But if there is some pushback, if that comes up, for all types of acting, do not be afraid to stick up for your character.
Yeah. Sometimes you can always have those moments of like, the line that is in the script, you just can't say it properly, and that's totally okay, because that's what bloopers are for. But especially if there are those moments where you're like, this just doesn't feel like them. That requires a little bit of insight. So yeah, I did not do that right from the start. That happened as like I kind of got used to playing roles, or like getting to know the character and going a bit more in depth.
Right.
Yeah, then you get that insight and you start to realize like, oh, okay, well, if I'm struggling with this so much, or if I don't feel like it's right, just say so. Yeah.
And at least for me, when I started, I was scared to push back. Whatever the director wanted, yep, you gave me the role, don't fire me,
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I think that's the biggest compliment as a director, because it shows that you have thought about it.
Yeah.
Like, you will stick out so much in this crowd if you show that you think about the roles instead of just saying the words on the paper.
Passion.
Like, right. Like, every project that goes through and gets made, like 90% of them is they send script. There's text. There's no call. There's send script, send line, good. If there's a retake needed, hey, can you redo this? Okay. And then they send it back. If there's a moment like that where you're like, ooh, I don't know about that, and you say it, the director, that'll stick out in their mind, and they're like, oh, wow, you actually like care.
Yeah.
Huh. I like you.
That resonates.
So, yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, is there a final thought that you want to leave us off on? Or a final thing you want to say? Anything.
Final thought.
Or a question you want to ask, or anything.
I'll shoot a few. I think for a final thought or statement, I would definitely say enjoy the process. It's gonna suck, but like, it's just how it goes. You're gonna fail a lot, and then you're gonna succeed. And when you get cast in your first role, you're gonna levitate, like unlike anything.
Oh yeah.
But I think for you, what is your approach to character work?
Ooh, do you mean like how to get into the zone?
I guess like the most simple way to frame it would be like, when you get a script and you have a character, what is your approach to finding the character?
To really knowing what the character's all about. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of a hard question, but I like it.
Sorry, I just kind of threw that on you, but...
Yeah, so... Okay, let's take Raven, for example, because she's kind of like the recent role that you've seen me do. Okay. So for her, yeah, well, I do have a certain type of view about a role when I start. Like, either, I read the audition, I read the information about it, and I kind of start to create this character in my mind so that she has a real life almost. And I really try to crawl into that role, into that skin of that person, that fictitious person. But also, I spoke so much with Misha about her. I was just like, oh, so is this the way that she thinks? Or, I'm just really curious about how this and this works, to really get more information about her, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, one thing I always like to know, if there is kind of like the personality or backstory of a character, so I really get to kind of embrace that role and kind of act like I am Raven for a minute, right? Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome.
All right, great.
That's really about it from me.
All right,
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. And so this was the very first episode, everybody, of the Early Days podcast. I had with me Anthony LePore. Make sure to follow him. He has a Twitter account, also Instagram.
Oh God.
What is your ad?
On Instagram?
Yeah. Everywhere.
It's like I don't have like a universal. I'll just give you the links. Check the description, I guess.
Check the description out. I'll link it below. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next one, bye-bye.